All right. Welcome to the She Force Show. I am your host, Amy Carlson, and I have a special guest today, Sofia Ejaz, and she is the NSR coach, which means the nervous system regulation coach. I hope that right off the bat, your mind is starting to ask questions, be curious, and hopefully we will answer a lot of those things that you might have. So, welcome, Sophia. I'm so glad we could do this.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You are welcome. For our audience, Sophia and I are in a business mastermind together. And I just want to preface this because, in case anyone out there is at one of these moments in time where you're thinking about, oh, I really have this inspiration to reach out to this person or make this connection. I want to tell you follow through because that's how Sophia and I got connected. I had made a post in the group and she commented on it and then reached out. And from there, I'm telling you what, the whole thing has been inspirational. So we've had collaborations together. And of course, I wanted to bring her on the show and introduce all of you to her genius, her story, her gifts, and her passion about what she is doing now. So, can we begin, Sophia, with just informing us all so we've got the same language and we're on the same page? What is nervous system regulation?
That's a great question. And I feel like a lot of people, I don't want to say get it wrong, but I want to explain it in like the simplest terms because I think that's not being done out there yet. So for me, nervous system regulation is training our inputs. And what do I mean by that? So when we are super stressed out, when we are in our survival brains up here, and a lot of our actually chronically dysregulated or chronically stressed out, and we've started like living up here, totally disconnected with our bodies, what happens is we're not getting clear data through our nervous system, through the inputs. And what do I mean by that? Like when we're stressed out, or super stressed out and we're in that state, our vision will get very narrowed, right? We lose touch with the peripheries. We're just here. And we disconnect with our body. So we're not so much in tune with our breathing or our heart rate. Like we're not usually in touch with our heart rate either, but like we're not getting information about our digestion, our hunger pangs, our breathing, and we're very much disconnected. We lose sense of where we are in space. Our brain has a 24-hour all the time, every second, the map of where we are in space. But if we're up here, disconnected, that map gets blurry,
Mm,
right? So our nervous system is getting data through our inputs, and those inputs are, our sight, our hearing, our balance, our internal sensations. Where are we in space? The map of the body, then our cognitive thoughts and our emotions. All of these are inputs. All of these inputs are going into our nervous system and specifically our brain, and the brain is always asking, are we safe or not? So if the input is not clear, if the map of the body is blurry, if you're disconnected, we cannot feel if you're hungry or not, if we cannot feel if you're shallow breathing and the breathing is not proper, if the diaphragm is impinged, the data that's going in through these inputs is unclear. And if the data is unclear, and on top of that, we're already in the survival brain, we're already stressed out, emotionally, we're feeling exhausted, frustrated, or, along those lines, all of these inputs are not good inputs. They're not clear inputs. And if the inputs are not good, if they're not accurate, if they're not clear, the brain will feel we're not safe, even though that's not the case. But since the inputs are not clear, the brain is like, something is off, something is wrong, we're under threat. And if you're under threat, the output that the brain will give you is usually fight, flight, freeze, along these lines, right? It's not going to be, and by fight, flight, freeze, it's more like exhaustion, insomnia, stress, anxiety, so on and so forth.
mm. Oh, which I think so many people would say they deal with on a regular basis.
Exactly. And they live in it. A lot of people like live in anxiety 24/7. So what's happening is like the inputs are the inputs are not going clear. They're already in a state of anxiety, and then they're feeling disconnected, not feeling safe because they're not getting the safe input, and the output is always going to be more anxiety, more stress. So with nervous system work, what we're trying to do is we're going at the level of the input and we're giving very safe data. What do I mean by that? Like we will breathe consciously, we will smell consciously, we will map our body consciously. So even if the brain is under threat, even if you're in a state of stress or anxiety, we can tell the brain, hey, it's safe to come back here. Hey, it's safe. There is no threat. There's no lion in front of us, right? Like the brain cannot differentiate between real and perceived threat.
Yeah.
These days, these threats of, deadlines, bills to pay, relationships to maintain, boundaries to set, so on and so forth, all of these things, these stressors to the brain, they feel like a lion standing in front of us, right? Even
Yeah.
that's not the case. But the brain is perceiving as it's very, very important for us to like literally come down to the level of the body and tell the brain, hey, it's okay, there is no lion standing in front of you. Come back, breathe. And
Yeah.
then doing these drills, the nervous system drills, training the inputs intentionally, consistently, and repeating the cycles over and over will help us repattern our stress responses. So even though if we see an email come in or a client complaint come in, let's say, our brain will not say, hey, there's a lion. It will be like, ah, it's just a client. I can handle it. I can be in my body.
Nice. That's amazing. As you describe it, so first of all, fantastic description. Secondly, I feel like it's something everybody can benefit from because often the response, I feel like if we see somebody that we are perceiving that is in that state of mind that you are describing, we can tell them, "Hey, it's no big deal."
Mhm.
But it's still more input up here, right? Rather than helping them to get back into their body through their senses. So they're not just needing information, advice. When we're in that state, we're needing a whole retraining, which I have been lucky enough to get to do with you some tools, which you'll find below in the description for the podcast. Amazing. I'm telling you, the tools that Sophia uses and the way that she goes about it. It's makes it accessible. It makes it you get to experience a difference within a moment or two. And then you just build and add on to that and remind us to check in with the body. And absolutely amazing. Like these are things I feel like that we should just have in our toolbox when
Yeah,
we go through school, when we graduate, when we do these different things. Like these should be things that we all have. Um, and I look forward to the day that that is the case.
me
And
too.
I know that's part of your, why you do what you do. But I also know it's very personal. How you got into nervous system regulation,
Hmm.
like most of us, what really drives us is something that we have experienced ourselves. Can you tell a story about how you came to finding, nervous system regulation?
Yeah. Thank you for asking that. And yeah, there's a story there. And I'm gonna tell you since the beginning because it's not something that happened in the moment, right? It took years for me to like come to the point where I was like, oh, this is what I need and this is what I'm gonna do with my life now. And so for me, I grew up in a very chaotic home. It was very um, dysregulated, dysfunctional. Both of my parents were unable to be parents for their own reasons. And I was actually taking care of my father, and my father had like schizoaffective disorder, which is schizophrenia and bipolar together. And I was the one who was like managing his anger outbursts, and I would like go in and mediate if he got angry at, the cashier. I was the one I would calm him down. I would talk to the cashier, make everything is okay. So yeah, I was the one who was taking care since, of my father since I was a very young girl. And and my mother had a behavioral disorder, you can say, which made her feel constantly unsafe, constantly anxious. And I kind of adopted that frame of mind too, unfortunately. So I grew up in this dysfunction. So the stress load in my stress bucket was always very high. And I never learned like how to emotionally regulate myself or like discharge the stress or like how not to be hypervigilant because, there was a lot of hypervigilance going on in my home and we were uh, not financially well. Unfortunately, we were just like living paycheck to paycheck. We had food, we had shelter, but it was very, very tough. And that's like living in a third in Pakistan. I grew up in Pakistan, which is a third world country, so it was very tough. So I grew up very stressed out, very chaotic, very dysfunctional, and I kind of internalized all of those things. And I didn't know that that's not normal and that's not how it's supposed to be. And yeah, I was not on good terms with my family. I can say like in my family, there's a lot of um, control, a lot of brainwashing, and I was growing up with that. And when I was about 13, we moved to like Saudi Arabia, and the control got even stronger there because it's a very isolated place and ended up getting even more dysfunctional, even more in my mind. Like I disconnected with my body and dissociated in my mind when I was very young because I just didn't know. Like that was my coping mechanism. So yeah, and in Saudi they just got even worse. Unfortunately, I know I became a certified chartered accountant because that was the only thing I could do. Like after school, I couldn't go to a uni because I was a girl living in Saudi. So in Saudi, it's like my family and the societal and cultural pressures there that were a lot. There were a lot. And I couldn't go to uni because I'm in Saudi. So I became a certified chartered accountant. It took me 5 years. But when I went out to the job market to find a job, I could not just because I was a woman in Saudi and there were just no jobs for expat women. Oh, I was so angry. I was so angry. Yeah. I was like, I'm not gonna give up. I just went online. We had good internet in Saudi, thank God. And I was like, what can I do online? And that's how I got into online marketing. And I specialized in Facebook ads. I had my own clients. Then I ended up working with American, US-based agencies. And I started earning well. And it's about like 3.5 years when I left my family because I didn't feel very safe there. And I came here to Istanbul, Turkey now, and this is where I live. And yeah, and I was working with US-based agencies till last year, but work was really tough. It's very performance-based, like you have to bring the results. If you don't, it really hits your self-esteem. And the hours we were working, like I was working in my evening, so I was not sleeping well because I was working till like 11 p.m. doing like brain work. And it was just like, and I have stress in my stress bucket since I'm a kid, and it's just leveling up, leveling up, leveling up, going up. I was in therapy for 5 years because I knew there was something wrong, not wrong with me. Like I felt there was just something off, what's going on. I was in therapy for 5 years, and it would help, but it never like resolved what was going on with me. And last year, I did a life coaching certification because I was very unhappy with my job. I knew I wanted to do big things. Not big things. I wanted to help people. I wanted to do more. I didn't want to be defined by just this work, that I was doing. And you and I talked about like how marketing work is very like sort of like, it's just mind connection. It's not, you're not really connecting with the other person. It's just, how much money how much revenue are we generating? How much can they pay us to, get the revenue? It's mostly that kind of
Transactional. Yeah.
it's very transactional, exactly. And I had this yearning. I want to do something deeper. I want to help people. I know all of my experiences are meant for something. So I became a life coach last year and I was really enjoying it. And I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. And I gave, it's been a year now. Like I gave no 2 weeks notice in my company. I was like, this is, I know that I want to help people and this feels right. So I gave my notice. I started building up my business. I got my first client very quickly, like through just one post. And I thought I would be like elated. I was elated, but after getting the first client, I couldn't show up anymore. Like I just couldn't. It was too stressful for me. It was too foreign for me. And yeah, around that time, I also like put very strong boundaries with my family as like what's happened in the past. I'm not gonna stand for it anymore. And I said no for the very first time. And that's a very big thing in my culture for a woman to like stand up and say no. And I think it was a multitude of all of these things happening simultaneously that I shut down. I was in a freeze and I was in my bed for months and completely dissociated, not knowing what to do, not knowing where my life is gonna, go. Um, Not being able to show up for my business. Like I wanted to be a life coach, but I was just in my bed. I couldn't show up. And it was during that time I literally went on Spotify and one day I was like, I think I'm dissociated. Like I feel what I'm feeling is dissociation. And I, typed in Spotify and this podcast came up and it talked about dissociation and how it's linked to trauma and complex trauma and how the thing I was going through was chronic nervous system dysregulation. And it also explained how um, what I went through in my childhood growing up, it resulted in complex trauma. So I was diagnosed with PTSD in therapy, but I was never like the complex part was missing, and complex part is tricky. It's complex. And especially for people who have complex trauma, or who have been in that survival state for a very, very long time and are unable to like come back down, nervous system regulation is the thing that they need. Like that's the thing that's missing. Like that, but that's what was missing for me because I tried therapy, courses, talking to people, self, like anything I could find, I would do it.
Yeah.
But I think there came a point where doing more things was actually dysregulating me than helping me.
Yeah.
And I,
See that?
yeah, I paused. I paused. That's how I found a nervous system regulation. Like the podcast, the people who had the podcast, they had like a certification. I became certified. I applied the work on myself, and it was so helpful. It saved my life. I want to say it gave me a new life. It's like a new lease on life, and like the person I am, I'm more me. I can show up for my business. We are doing this, and I'm able to show up. It's
Yeah.
big things for me. I'm going out there. I'm talking to people. I'm working with my clients, and it's a whole new me. It's a whole new me. That's me, that's not coming so much from a survival mind, but through me.
Yeah.
So that's my whole story of how I found nervous system regulation and why it's so important to me. I think this work is so, so, so important. I feel everybody needs it. You don't necessarily need to have complex trauma to go for nervous system regulation. Just anybody, like to deal with stress, to deal with daily stress, anxiety, emotional regulation. So many people don't know how to regulate emotions. And I'm not surprised because my parents didn't know how to regulate, and I'm sure there are many people out there who don't know, not intentionally, they just don't know, they didn't learn from their parents. Those parents didn't learn from their parents, and so on and so forth. So I feel this work is very much needed. And it's very much for me, like this was the resolution that I was looking for. And I completely agree with you that this needs to be taught in schools to kids. Like, yes,
Yeah.
if we had more regulated kids, it would be game changer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why I was drawn to yoga. I knew that what I was looking for was calm. There was something I need internally knew that I wanted to calm. And so I feel like there are some parts of yoga, that interact with this idea of nervous system regulation. But once I experienced nervous system regulation with you, I was like, wow, this could be a whole um, usually what we need to know is that can I learn this tool? Can I do this myself? Can I, in a moment, can I train myself so that when I get into that, because like with yoga, if I'm in a stressful situation, I can't just drop everything and start to, in the middle of a meeting, I can
Yeah.
work with my mind and my breathing. But I really love that about nervous system regulation. And I wanted to draw this back as well to, as you were speaking of health in general, and earlier you mentioned, eating. And the more I think about nervous system regulation, and so much of what I do in my work is working with people with their health, a lot of times around food. And what a great thing to be able to, I'm thinking about like learning nervous system regulation techniques before a person tries to change their diet or their exercise, because otherwise we can just end up getting frustrated once again. Why isn't this working for me, without addressing the issue and learning how to get into your body
Yeah.
so that you can begin to be open to health. It's not that you're wrong. It's not that you don't have willpower. It's not that it's just, to use your word, it's more complex. It's not
Yeah.
just as easy as follow this diet.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. I love that you brought that up. And I'm working with a client right now, and he has like tried to lose weight. He struggles with eating, and um there was a point when they got like a hold of it and lost a ton of weight, but then they were not able to maintain it, right? And went on the in the opposite direction. And what we noticed, like we were having a session, and we noticed like there was this perfectionism going on. Like either it's like all or nothing, you
Yep.
know? You're perfect in both the scenarios. And I feel like a lot of those patterns are survival patterns. We're using that to cope something deeper. Like
Yeah.
if it's perfectionism, if it's inner critic, if it's shame, there's a lot of shame with eating as well, right? Like all of these are coping mechanisms. And if you're up here, we cannot resolve them. So just a diet or just eating healthy or just exercising will not resolve it if the pattern is not resolved, right? No wonder people are not able to stick to the diet or keep the results that they got, because I feel the inner patterns are not worked on because everything is happening from up here. So it's very important to like be able to go in your body. And once you are more safe in your body speaks to you, and it will tell you the trauma that's there, the pattern that they're holding on there, and you can work on that then, right? And you can work on releasing that. And then anything you do, the diet, the exercise, it will actually stick and it will actually be beneficial. And you will be able to like do it in a way that's actually good for you and sustainable for you, because you're not trying to get like a perfect score on this, right? Because there is no perfect score on this. It has to be something that's good for you, and you get to decide that. And you can decide that when you're actually in your body, when you actually like listen to your body and dealt with the trauma. And yeah, I think the work like nervous system regulation is um I think it's very good for any other modality that we're doing, right? And it can be very, very, yeah, yeah.
100%. Um, and so I think this is like the perfect time to just say, of course, you're going to want to connect with Sophia more. You'll want to follow her, see what she's up to, check out some of the things that she's doing, and see for yourself. Experience it, not up here, but in here. And so all of this information will be, how to access Sophia, what she's up to, will be in the description. So please check that out, along with an absolutely amazing freebie that you get to check out some of these tools. And on that note, Sophia, is there anything else that you want to, just share as we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for all the questions. They were very, thank you for just opening up this conversation and letting me share my story and how my work can actually help people. Thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome. And I also just want to say as well, as we're talking about nervous system regulation, I'm sure that our listeners can feel this, whether they're watching the video version and they get to see, or if they are watching the audio version and they're taking this in through their hearing. Sophia is, you can sense her regulation. You can sense that this work has worked. And I think, that is the ultimate um, marketing is just the way that we embody something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for reflecting that. Thank you. Yeah, I super appreciate that. And that was not me la last year. I was not regulated. I didn't know how to, you know. And yeah, just the groundedness I'm able to get to now. I'm just, yeah, like that's the ultimate gift in this, right? And yeah, thank you so much for reflecting that.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you for, I really think that ultimately, what we're talking about here is what we're actually all looking for. Most of the things that we chase, what underlies it is that we're looking to feel better. And through nervous system regulation, we get to feel better. We get to feel better quickly. We get to feel better more often.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel like that chase, yeah, I love that you brought that. Like we're trying to chase things to be happy, right? That's been me too in the past. And with regulation, if you're embodied, you actually know what you want. So you can go after the things that you actually want. Because a lot of times we're chasing the things we're seeing on social media, right? Or other person did that. Oh, it made them happy. I think I'm gonna be happy too if I will have that. That's not true. Not necessarily true, right? Because you need to know what is for you, what will make you happy, and then go after that. Chase that if you wanna, you know? But it has to be for you. And that's when we're in alignment, right? That's when we are embodied. That's when we are manifesting to if we want to. Yeah, I just wanted to add that.
yes, absolutely. I very much agree because it's the clarity. I know when I feel off kilter now that I have more experience and words to put with it, what I'm missing is clarity.
Mm, yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
that clarity, I love that. Like it's like that survival loops, those that get in the way and make things blurry, I feel,
yes,
right? It's
yes,
that critic, it's that shame, it's that heavy, like for me, it would be like heaviness, mental fog. I would be like mean to myself. Like, why am I being mean to myself? It's just my survival brain. It's just my body, my brain trying to protect me from, doing the big change, doing the um difficult thing or the uncomfortable thing that will actually help me change and move. But the brain is like, nah, it feels unsafe. It's too much. Let's stick here. It's
exactly.
survival loops. It's not more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I just have to say again. Check out Sophia's freebie. I mean, these tools are gold. They're absolute gold. Now I go to them. I know when to go to them. I know what to do, how to do it, and the results are quick. And I am so grateful. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for reaching out to me to instigate this whole friendship and personal and professional collaborations. So, um, keep on doing what you're doing. You are shining your light in the world. And I just look forward to more interactions and collaborations. We are cooking some things up here about how we will be working together. So thank you all for listening. And until next time, know yourself, be yourself, and free yourself.